There's a reason I am saying that Peter Obi must stop pursuing 25% of FCT as one of the grounds for contesting the outcome of the 2023 presidential election. Before we go into the reason, we need to understand something. I still believe that 25% of the FCT is a requirement, according to Section 134 of the Nigerian Constitution. However, considering the fact that in law, judges are only allowed punishment for any offense based on the prescribed punishment for that offense. There's a prescribed punishment for armed robbery. There's a prescribed punishment for stealing. There's a prescribed punishment for murder. Now, the judge cannot give a punishment beyond what is recommended as punishment for any offense. So if the punishment for murder is 25 years to life imprisonment, then it will fall within the prerogative of the judge to choose between 25 years and life imprisonment, but not more than that. The judge cannot go below 25 years and it cannot do beyond life imprisonment if death penalty is not prescribed. So let's establish this first. The judge can only pronounce judgment based on the prescribed punishment for any particular offense. Once we understand this, then it will be easy for us to understand why I say that Peter Obi must stop pursuing 25% of the FCT. There are two reasons for it. Number one, Section 134 of the Constitution of Nigeria actually spells it out clearly that 25% of the FCT is a requirement. 1/4 of total votes cast in at least 2/3 of all the states in Nigeria plus the FCT. And according to former Minister of Justice Anduka, there is a Supreme Court ruling on this before now that 25% of the FCT is required, and that "and" is conjunctive. So I still believe that 25% of the FCT is required. However, understanding the fact that the judges can only prescribe judgment based on the prescribed punishment for any particular offense, we need to now look again at Section 134 of the Constitution and look at it. What is the prescribed punishment, or what is the prescribed remedy for breach or violation of that Section 134? Now it says that if a candidate in an election in which there are multiple candidates, more than 2 candidates, for a candidate to be declared winner, the candidate must first of all have majority of the votes cast. Then he must have 25% of votes cast in at least 2/3 of all the states in Nigeria. When this condition is not met, like we all know that Tinubu did not meet it in the FCT, what is the remedy that the Constitution prescribes? The Constitution goes further to say that when the candidate with the highest number of votes does not meet the 25% condition, what will happen, according to the Constitution, is that there will be a runoff election. And only 2 candidates will qualify for that runoff. The candidate with the highest number of votes, and then the candidate with the next highest number of votes, which means that the runoff will be between Tinubu of APC and Atiku of PDP. You see, that does not favor Labour Party or Peter Obi. That's not the only reason for me saying Peter Obi should stop pursuing 25% of the FCT. The second reason, which is actually the most important, is this. Cast your mind back to when you were in school, or if you're still in school, in an examination. If you're given 4 questions, you're told to answer any 3. What do you do? For me, what I do, what I've always done, and has always helped me, is if I look at all the 4 questions and I don't know all of them, and there are 1 or 2 or 3 that I know, what I would do is I will start answering the one that I know will give me the biggest mark, so that if time runs out, I know that I have done the one that I know I will get the biggest benefits from. That is what Peter Obi needs to apply here. There are 4 grounds on which he is contesting this election. And because of the time constraint, really, Is 25% of the FCT, will it give such tremendous benefit? Obviously, from the analysis we just gave, no. So which one should he follow? That's a big question that you and I should answer. It is a big question that Peter Obi himself and his lawyers need to answer because of this question of time constraint. Considering what happened yesterday on Friday in court, where APC, INEC, and Tinubu's lawyers engaged technicalities to argue and argue and argue and waste a lot of time. In fact, the whole of Friday was wasted and nothing was achieved because there was this constant debate about whether or not the video evidence that Labour Party lawyers wanted to play through a witness should be allowed to be played. They were arguing. The APC lawyers, Tinubu lawyers, and even the INEC lawyers said they were not told beforehand, they were not pre-informed that they were going to show this evidence, even though Peter Obi and Labour Party's lawyers said that the evidence had been listed before. They said they were not informed. So this argument went on for the whole day. In fact, the judges were making jokes out of it. At some point, the presiding judge said, "Oh, we want to watch Fimo." And then it looked as if now they were going to allow the Labour Party to play their video evidence. And then the next thing, we heard objection again from Tinubu's lawyers and APC's lawyers. And what was the objection? Oh, they were going to play it with a blue drive. And blue is for Chelsea. And they are Arsenal. And all of that. And in fact, the presiding judge now made another joke. And I must say that the judges actually have very healthy sense of humor. Now joked again and said that both Arsenal and Chelsea have both failed. And, you know, so they made a joke out of it. And just about when the video evidence was about to be played, the presiding judges ruled that time had gone and that they should adjourn for Saturday 2 p.m. So based on technicalities, the APC, Tinubu's lawyers, and even INEC's lawyers were able to waste valuable time. They wasted all of their time. Considering that this can happen in the whole tribunal itself, the 6 months that are allowed for the tribunal to dispatch of this case, the 6 months can come and go, and all the evidences may not be exhausted. And of course, you know that Peter Obi will be required to prove his case beyond reasonable doubt. So, looking at that and considering that there's time constraint, should Peter Obi start with the question that will give him the least answer, knowing fully well that that question could actually waste his time, knowing fully well that starting with all of this playing of evidence, the lawyers for APC, lawyers for Tinubu, lawyers for INEC can actually engage them on technical grounds to waste time. Should Peter Obi then focus on things like 25%? The question is, if it's not to focus on 25%, then what should he focus on? Remember, there are 4 grounds on which Peter Obi is contesting this election, the election of February 25, 2023, for President of Nigeria. The 4 grounds are, number 1, 25% of the FCT. Number 2, disqualification of Tinubu based on his US drugs-related conviction. Number 3, disqualification of Tinubu based on Shetima's double nomination for double constituency. Then number 4, irregularities and non-compliance with the Electoral Act, in which you have majority votes cast, fraud, non-compliance, rigging, and all of that. They fall under the 4th one. So, right now, if time is being wasted on trying to prove 25%, which will not yield so much result based on the analysis we just gave, if effort is being made to prove that Shetima had double nomination, if those 3 grounds are not going to yield so much result, which one should we be focusing on? I feel we should be focusing on the one that will give the best result. And that one is the fourth ground. Now, within that fourth ground, there are many things that are bundled into one. And we should look at the many things and also sift out and figure out which one we should focus on. So let's look at it and figure out what Peter Obi should focus on so that we don't waste time and the whole 6 months expires and we have not answered satisfactorily, answered to the fullest of our ability, the question that will benefit us the most in the whole of this tribunal process. This is why I say that 25% of the FCT, Peter Obi should stop pursuing it because it does not really favor Labour Party. It does not favor Peter Obi and it does not favor the reclaiming of our mandate. So what should we be focusing on?